everything is going to work out. Everything is going to work out. And I think that we try so hard to control and have expectations as to what we think we want and what we think we deserve in this timing. But one thing I've realized about everything that occurs in my life is that the minute I surrender and I let go, the minute I actually talk to myself and the universe and I say, okay, I observe the need of trying to control this right now. I observe that there's some sort of need coming from this. Let me explore the need of why I want to control. And majority of the time, when you explore that necessity or that craving, you will realize that it's actually linked to fear. And one thing I've learned during my process of detachment is the minute I accept that I'm trying to control things and I don't try to punish myself or judge myself for trying to control things. Instead, I approach myself with compassion. I approach myself with understanding. The more I actually begin to surrender as to what is meant to happen in my life. And every time I do this, every time I explore, when I find that craving or that desire to control, I explore the necessity behind that, the intention behind trying to control. I have more compassion for myself, and it's sort of like I'm approaching myself with unconditional love. And it is this way of approaching myself with unconditional love that signals to the universe that I'm no longer coming from judgment. I'm no longer coming from ego. Instead, I'm approaching myself with unconditional love. Majority of the time when we try to control things, we're afraid of something not going our way. We're afraid of things not working out. But it is the fear behind that, the intention behind that, that's actually limiting the way things will play out. Because at the end of the day, everything will always play out perfectly. And the more I tell this to myself, the more I explain this sort of universal law to myself, the more I surrender. And every time I decide to surrender, I attract people. I attract people, I attract experiences, I attract books, I attract the message. I find the answer. And I always tell you guys that the answer is always within yourself. The answer is always within yourself. You just have not been giving yourself you haven't given yourself the permission to believe that. I would be lying to you if I told you that I do not try to control things. I still do. There's some sort of fear behind it. But instead of judging myself, I allow myself to experience that need, that craving. And the more I tune into that craving, the least resistance I create. I drop all resistance because I no longer say, hey Z, you're trying to control things and you shouldn't do this, or I judge myself for this. Instead of I approach myself this way, I observe that, hey Z, I see that you're trying to control these things. Why are you trying to control these things? And so asking myself the why always leads to the answer. I have been attracting a lot of interesting people in my life lately. I went to a birthday dinner Saturday and I sat down and one of the things that I always intend is to attract people who are opened. And when I say attract people who are open, I mean attract individuals that are open-minded and also open-hearted, because that's very important. To be open-hearted means that you are attracting individuals that are reflecting trust, the trust to surrender and the trust that you believe that everything is happening for your highest good. And so I always set this intention that every person that comes into my life, I want them to be open-minded and open-hearted. And so here's how interesting the universe works. On Saturday, I decide to go to one of my favorite jazz bars. And as I sit down, there's a couple sitting right next to me and my friends. The first initial couple that was sitting there, I did not have any sort of desire or any desire to even talk to them. I didn't even really look at them. I was fully in the moment with my best friends, and we were having all these great conversations. And then that initial couple that was sitting next to us then gets up and pays their bill, and another couple sits down. But here's where things change. As they bring down a little ice cream cake for me to celebrate my birthday there, that couple looks at me, and the woman tells me, I want to ask you, let's ask each other a question. Because I don't remember how it started. All I remember that woman was intrigued by my energy. And I had asked her a question like, what has this year, because she was actually also celebrating her birthday. And this is how interesting life begins to mirror your intentions by bringing and attracting the right people to you. So she is celebrating her birthday there, and I'm celebrating my birthday there. Here's what's interesting. I asked her, what is it that you realized about this year? What is one thing that you realized? And she said, to always allow myself and to really focus on myself and put less emphasis on others and what others think of me. And I don't know if you guys have been watching my channel, but I've been talking a lot about authenticity and the power of being authentic. And as she shares this, right, as she shares that that's her biggest lesson, she also emphasized the power of allowing God, universe, source, in this case God, to open her and to always put him first, to allow God to guide her instead of her trying to control her life. And I thought it's so interesting how life mirrors and how I have been embodying this way of living, and I attract people that are also embodying this way of living. I don't become surprised when these things happen. Instead, I tune into playfulness, because it's just a way of me really, really sending love to the universe, knowing that thank you for delivering the right people. So then, as she shares this lesson to me, she asks the same question and I respond with a different answer. And then she says, well, let me ask you a question. She says, how old do you think I'm turning? And then I'll guess how old you're turning. And I said, you go first. She said, you're turning 28. And I said, how the hell did you just spot on know I was turning 28? So then I gave her a guess and I didn't spot on her answer. She said she's turning 48. 2 decades older than me. Yet we are both in the same path. We are both in the same sort of energetic frequency. And we exchanged numbers, and I just immediately told her, I don't know you, but I want to meet and sit down with you again, and I need to talk to you. And so that's what happens when you start letting go and you start surrendering and you start allowing the universe to work with you. You start attracting people effortlessly because you are no longer trying to impress or seek. Instead, you are now being, and by being, you start allowing others to come and mirror whatever beliefs, whatever projections that you are choosing. There's so much power in being. There's a difference between being and chasing. Being means that you no longer need to look externally. Instead, you decide to choose to look internally because you understand that there's power within your soul. There's power when you connect with your essence. There's power when you begin listening to yourself. When you begin to listen to yourself, you will unlock freedom because you no longer look for external validation. Instead, you connect with internal intuition and love, and unconditional love. So I ask you, do you have a hard time letting go? And if you do, I want you to explore that with curiosity instead of judgment. It is when I decided to explore that with curiosity that I realized the highest potential of letting go and looking within to find the answers. I love you guys, and I hope you guys have enjoyed these holidays.